Alrighty, first topic we're getting into is how level design is put into different games. So the first level we're making is, as agreed upon, is going to be a town level. So in most games and most RPGs, especially 2D, a town looks like this: very uniform, very straightforward, very blocky setup of how the town looks. It level design wise, uh, it creates exploration, but very cramped, very explore if you want kind of setup. For dungeons, it's a little bit different. Well, actually, a lot different based upon what kind of levels you're creating. Like for instance, we have a a cave level. As you can see, it's very non-blocky. Like there's a lot of like ducts and extra space. This is what's called what I call aesthetic space, to where you really don't need all this extra space that there is, but there is because it's a cave, and you want to make it look very cave-like in its setup. The other spaces are what I call what did I call it? Design space. It's, for instance, over here might be where a treasure is. Over here might be just a dead end, and a dead end for backtracking, which in RPGs you either put that for the input of how much experience you get based upon how many random encounters you get, so you have a dead end to up those numbers. But there's that key difference of aesthetic and design space that you want to keep track of when it comes to making levels. In this kind of level, this is a building kind of dungeon, to where everything is not as ununiform as like the caves, to where they're very craggy and very diagonally. Where in these ones, it's very blocky. As you can see, it's very straight and building like. Since we're making a have a no, not that one. There is another example I had. No, this is a great video. We'll go with that. These are two. All right. So in this one right here, I put an example of a basement place, to where we could have a inside the buildings of the town level. Since we're making, we can have like an underwater basement kind of setup for a dungeon as well. So these are just a few ideas, and it gives you an idea of when to add space in your level design, when to not add space. Uh, do, do, do. So I wanted to show you the example of a level I made for the for a game, and so with just the bare bones information I gave you guys, let me back up a bit. With this level right here, if you could take maybe like a minute or two to look at it and see if because there's problems with it. I can definitely see problems. Um, if there's anything you could spot that could be either improved upon, or it could be it could be changed. And actually, I'll make it 30 seconds, and we'll stare at it. It's going to be silent for a bit. Take note that some of these empty spaces could be for events, as the treasure example I gave for those caves, but some of these empty spaces can be not for that. Should put a timer on. Alrighty, uh, before we go to explanations, there is one example I forgot to mention. It's the idea of straight corridors in level design. No, there's hardly any game, as you could see in a lot of these other examples, oops, that there is no straight corridor. There's always weaving, there's always turning, there's always something, because the player would get really bored if they're constantly going straight. So with that in mind, does anybody have any top of their head things they think they could fix with this kind of level? If anybody does want to speak up. So, the first thing I can think of at the top of my head is this kind of straight corridors right here. For the level itself, there is an event going on in this entire hallway right here, and there's an event going on in an entire mansion to where you have to find certain things. But once those two events are gone, you just have straight corridors, and that could be really, really boring. And so a thing to fix it would be cut this path in half and make them both go in here to give the player the knowledge, the slight more brain attention span, like a attention grabbing, to know that something is here, so the straight corridor is not as straight. Another example I could think of is this straight corridor right here, to where this could have a little bit more of an open space instead of just straight corridor, straight corridor, straight corridor. These carpets I put right here are what's called a guiding path, to where they don't go inside each of the rooms, but they're enough to go into to grab your attention to lead you around the place. And you might want to add that in some of your building structures to make the player know where to go without explicitly telling you where to go. So there's that. Now we're going to watch a video by Extra Credits. Highly suggest everyone watch these kind of videos from this channel. They are excellent for almost every type of part of gaming. So we'll watch it. So
throughout your gaming adventures, I'm sure you have some memories of exploring lush jungles, venturing through the ruins of otherworldly civilizations, or climbing high mountains and witnessing a sprawling, fantastical world below you. But have you ever wondered what makes some levels and game spaces more memorable than others? Well, part of that comes from level designers, the architects of these virtual worlds. And today, we get to peek inside one of their brains and learn some world-building secrets. Thanks so much to One Day University for helping us get smarter. Real quick up top, please welcome today's guest writer, senior level designer on The Division and Cyberpunk 2077, and the host of the podcast Level Design Lobby, Max Pierce. Thanks, Max. While we've discussed level design before, we've never really dove headfirst into the digital building blocks of what exactly a level designer does, or the skills they need to be one. For the uninitiated, level designers are game designers who specialize in crafting the spaces in games where players explore, fight, and overcome challenges. You know, basically any digital space where the player plays. And these areas they design can take a ton of different forms. From the bombastic islands of Fortnite, to the sneaky pig-built towers found in Angry Birds, to the massive sprawling open worlds like in Breath of the Wild, or the more linear levels you see in The Last of Us. But when we say design, we don't just mean geometry, though of course that is certainly a major component of the job. While building, level designers must also take into consideration the game's pacing, forms of combat, types of puzzles, methods of movement, and story beats, all while creating a visually compelling environment that keeps the players hooked as they explore. However, these lively locales aren't created in a vacuum. In order to forge levels that drive games forward, level designers need to work closely with their interdisciplinary teammates, balancing the needs of narrative design, game design, environmental art, lighting, effects, audio, and others into their own plans. Because nobody wants to have to rebuild an entire area because they forgot to integrate core mechanics or important gameplay principles. So there's a lot of communication and information collection through design docs, pacing, flow diagrams, mood boards, and more before level designers even begin planning out their levels in earnest. Then once all the info is collected and everyone's on the same page, the level designer begins blocking out their level in a variety of different ways depending on their game. Sometimes using 3D software such as 3D Studio Max, or more modular kit pieces in commercial game engines like Unreal or Unity. And you can think of this blocking step as a sort of rough draft, something that can be made and edited quickly, which is important because a level designer will iterate on their block out a lot. It'll constantly be reviewed not just by themselves, but also by their team to ensure it meets everyone's needs. After the blockout has been approved, they can move on to crafting the finer details within the level, weaving together any puzzles, narrative, and combat scenes, or whatever other finishing touches the game calls for. And as development progresses further, a level designer's work shifts to testing the pacing, feel of the encounters, and clarity of player goals. Until finally, the game locks and goes live, ready to have their levels experienced and explored by players all over the world. Now you might be saying, dang, that sounds neat. I want to be able to harness the power of my imagination to craft exciting worlds that players will never forget, that push their skills to the max, while making them wish to never return to the lackluster realms from whence they came. Well, you're in luck, because Max wanted to share a few fundamental skills he's found to help great level designers rise above the rest. The first, and often overlooked fundamental, is that while it's extremely tempting to jump right into the editor and start working on your level blockout, the best practice as a level designer is to research key elements of your levels first. You need to study the types of environments where your levels are based, gathering photo and video references, and looking at your team's concept art. Max's rule of thumb is to gather around 50 references for himself, as this not only fuels his inspiration for what ideas to pursue, but also helps keep them in line with the project's overall vision. And because your job as a level designer is to make sure your levels feel right, you'll find that key aspects of said research will center around architecture and geology, be they from a fictional realm like Middle-earth, or somewhere real like New York City. Additionally, through your research, you'll build up a repertoire of architecture and geology that you can use to communicate emotions to your players. For example, based on your previous tone of excitement, let's say you want to instill your players with a feeling of dread. Well, you might start by researching brutalist architecture. Or, if your aim is to overwhelm your players with awe, Art Nouveau might have you covered. Remember, your goal is to make something believable, but not necessarily realistic. Part of your job as a level designer is learning how to take creative liberties with the source material to make spaces that best suits gameplay. Next, remember to always conceptualize and build your game with its specific metrics in mind. Things like required environment dimensions, polygon and texture budgets, and NPC and player movement abilities, because these allow you to plan for things like how wide a corridor needs to be in order to facilitate combat in it in conjunction with the size of character models, or how large to make a chasm so that the player can, or cannot, jump across it, or that you'll need to design side paths for your players to utilize via different skills they unlock in your game. Understanding your game's specific metrics allow you to create an environment perfectly tailored for your game's desired experience. And once you've nailed that down, you can more easily design your levels with side intention. For example, designing smaller corridors to make the player feel timid and weak, or panoramic ledges that funnel players in a desired direction. Also, strong communication skills are another important fundamental, since as a level designer, you'll be working closely with members of different departments and disciplines to produce a fantastic level. So you'll need to be able to communicate your ideas and sell your vision, while also listening to your team's thoughts and needs as well, because you never know where the next bolt of inspiration may strike from to make the game even better. And finally, one last fundamental Max has found crucial in his level design is learning how to provide players with guidance. A ruined tower or a well-placed torch revealed as a player turns a corner can give the player an indication which direction they should head next, helping to ensure they aren't frustrated as they traverse their levels and aren't completely beholden to maps for navigation. Luckily, you have many tools at your disposal for helping guide your players through your levels. Things like landmarks, signposts, shapes and color, lighting, visual language, and composition. These and more, in the hands of an experienced level designer, provide subtle nudges of clarity and direction that make even complex environments easy to navigate, and they can help ensure that players are engaged by the game's intended challenges and not distracted by poorly planned game space. Of course, we realize there's a lot more we could say about level design, but we hope that you enjoyed this 101 overview. And if this element of game design has awakened your inner world builder, you can get a deeper look into all of these concepts in Max's latest book, Let's Design Exploration. Just promise me all this reality crafting power won't go to your head. Oh boy.
Alrighty. So, sorry about the sound for that. So, I'll link the video in the chat for those who want to see it for later use. Again, this channel is incredibly insightful. Okay, so one other quick lesson I want to teach is about how, where's that blank document? Here we go. How to integrate parts of design into other aspect of making games. So I heard this idea and I thought it's a fantastic jumping point. What if the character was an amnesiac? So what is that? What could that mean? Well, that could mean that the character, story-wise, narrative-wise, could be an amnesiac, which changes only the narrative. But what if the character was an amnesiac and it changed the gameplay? An idea could suggest forgetting movesets. Like, for instance, what our character is supposed to be super perceived as super strong, but knows that he's not. That's the basic thing that we came up with. However, what the idea could be is that he thinks he's not because he has amnesia, so he doesn't remember. So you could design it to where each time you go into battle, it's either a roulette of moves. Like, for instance, each turn he has a different move set, and you have to learn each one of them. Each time it just cycles through them. You have really weak ones, really strong ones, and you have to keep on trying to do them. Or you could do a thing to where the main character is gets moves back, like how he encounters different story things and he starts remembering different moves he has. So that's one possibility. That's a quick thing I wanted to discuss, and I hope that anybody that's inserting ideas can think of beyond just the scope that they're in, such as writing for writing, design for design, art for art. Hope it gives you a small idea to branch out between them. Now, since that's done, we're done with this. We're going to open up RPG Maker and show how a quick puzzle could be made. So I opened up this is the base one to give you. And first off, we're going to shrink the level. We're going to make it the smallest it could possibly be. And I believe the smallest is 2015. That is the map. That's the size of the game screen itself, the resolution. 20 squares by 15 squares. Yep. So if you want to make a room that's only the size of the camera, that's the basic number. So the first layer right here we're going to make is the flooring. And so what's a good flooring for a house? We're going to go with this. Gonna get the paintbrush. Boom. That's the flooring. We're going to make that the flooring of the house. So the second layer, well, actually, we'll keep it on the first layer. I forgot that's how it works. We're gonna make the walls. And then we're gonna make the roofing tiles. Oh, that looks ugly. We're gonna make it wood instead. And then it creates dimension to the house itself. Because if you don't have that, then it's kind of harder to tell for the player where it doesn't give it as much dimension. It doesn't give as much pizzazz. So we'll get that. Alright. So first off, we're going to make a simple puzzle to where you read a note, it says press these buttons, and that's it. And then you have to press them in order. In the order that the note says. So we'll just put show text of 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 6. I'm gonna make it press. Alright, and it's an action button, and we're going to try to put is there a piece? Aha! We'll use this as the graphic for it. So right now there's that right there. Another thing you want to make sure is this is the player's starting position. This is when the game starts, the game knows where to put the player on to begin with. Now, of course, in the game itself, the player will start in a vastly different area, and it will be running into an event which will transport them to places like this. But we'll get into that later. Let me fix this. This is bugging me. There we go. All right. Now we're gonna make the different buttons. Button 1. Remember to name your events. Slap. So what do we want for our button? The graphic. There's nothing too buttony. So we're gonna do this. Button 1. Copy. Paste. Copy. Paste. Copy. Paste. Copy. Paste. Copy. Paste. And make sure to name it the different buttons. Bum bum. Bum bum bum. Alright. So inside the button, we're going to deal with, oh, where's the switches? Where's the switches? Instead of me meandering, we're going to do that. We're going to open up the switch menu, and we're going to create a switch. Button 1. And we're going to go with the conditional branch. If button 1 is off. Oops. It automatically makes it so it has an else statement at it. So make sure to keep track of that. If button 1 is off. Button 1 pressed. Let's give that a little more flair. Button is pressed down. And then we're going to have to make a conditional branch for, let's just make button 2, button 3, button 4, button 5, button 6. So we actually don't need that, because button 1 is the first one that you have to press, and so it doesn't need something for that. But now I actually have to find the switch event on here. Where is it? Where is it? Dang, it has been a bit. Control switches. There we go. So button 1 is on. And then, we should make an else statement. The else statement right here would be a message that says the button is already pressed. For even more flair, we'll put a face set. Mr. Hero. And you can copy and paste each one of these scripts to make it easier. So for this, we'll copy this entire code. So we can just put it in here. And then for button 2. And for this one, we have to put another conditional branch for if Actually, yeah, I completely forgot what the order was. You know what? To make this easier, we'll just do, because I have a crap memory, 6. And then we'll have to put it inside a conditional branch if button press 1 is on. So it'll be inside here. If button 2 is off, it will turn it on. So if button 2 is off, then inside here, we'll keep the face set that way. Say, oh no, all the buttons have been turned off. I'm gonna make a command that controls all the switches, turn them all off to reset the puzzle. When you click on any one of these and press spacebar, it automatically opens it up. So that'll be make things quicker. Okay, we'll copy that code because now, since this is the third switch, it's going to need another conditional branch inside here. When it comes to code, you have to keep track of, oops. It can get very easy to keep lose track of the order of things. So you gotta be pretty careful. So right here, this one happens. Whoops. See, I made a mistake. Inside here is supposed to be button 2 on. Okay. Whoops. 2, 3, 3, and then it's already pressed, so same thing here, but inside this one we have to put it inside the else branch. So basically we're going to do this until all the switches are done. Nope. Wrong one. Oh. And boop, 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 boop. Boop. Okay, and then if anyone has any questions of what I'm doing, feel free to ask, because I'm going pretty fast. Alrighty. Put that inside the else branch. We got one more, we're almost there. And I'm gonna add that later, just for a little fun. Little branch, that's on. That's there. Now we could make the event of what happens inside here. What happens once you press all them happen inside here. But I'm going to do a little sneaky parallel process. As I've said, parallel process are an event happening at the same time. It's checking everything while you're playing. So we're gonna go put a conditional branch. No. To make this easier, inside here, we're gonna put a switch activation. All buttons pressed. I don't need an exclamation mark. Boom. And then prize event parallel process branch if all buttons. We are going to, where is it? It should be here. Oh, before we mess with that, we're gonna have to make this the prize. Is that? No, I don't think that's the one I'm looking for. Is that the? Nah, that's not the one I'm looking for. There's one I'm looking for where I'm going to move an event to a specific place. Set event location. Prize. And we're going to put it right there. And then with that, we're going to, hope I'm not going too fast. Wait, that'll be our prize. A kitten. And then, to make sure this doesn't keep on looping, we're going to erase the event. And then, when you click on the kitty, have a little kitty tip. And then, where is it? Is there a meow sound effect? Cat. Oops, that's a chicken. That's a cat. Alright, I believe everything has gone. Full screen. Okay. Read the sign. Oh, I messed up. This is why we got a test. Where did I mess up on? I think I messed up because the button press is for you to you have to actually collide with the object itself, but this wall, you can't go through this wall. So I'm going to make it that read spot right there. And I don't technically need to make this event, it will just clock it up, but for the sake of okay, here we go. Yep, press 1 2 3 4 5 6. All right. Oh, see, same thing is happening. So what we need to do is, let's move these forward. We're going to utilize the second layer. We're going to put these where the events were, and then move them forward. Oops. We don't want that big bush. So, I just don't remember at this point. There's probably a very easy rule of doing it. But there's obviously a way to make it so you can interact with the object, even if it's something that, by a button press, even if it's impassable. I'm just having a brain fart, and I'll just have to relearn it. Just probably look at my old code again. Oh, yep, save it. Do it again. Let's get that kitty. Make sure this works again. Always want to keep on testing. Button is pressed down. Button was pressed down. The button was pressed down. Press down. Press down. Press down. And then the kitty appears. Oh. And the kitty meows if you pet him. Alright. I hope that gives a slight example of how to do this. And I'm going to end this recording.